Welcome back to the shop. Continuing this week with our Asian-inspired hybrid recurve bow. This is our bamboo back and belly. Got it to something of a brace height. This is a pretty low brace height. It could handle being a little higher. In a style of bow like this, getting it to brace and getting the shape right at this stage is really kind of the key to allowing ourselves to move forward. You can see here that I've got a lot of action going on this one limb. This week we're going to go through all the efforts that it took to match this limb to this one, because this one naturally took a great shape. This one, on the other hand, took a lot of effort, and I'm going to show you how we did that. All right, guys, getting started today with putting in some nocks at the tips of the bow here, and haven't done anything other than clean up the glue edges and kind of smooth out these corners so that I don't go cutting the string as I'm stringing it up. The string we're on right now is just short enough to get that string off of the belly side of the grip here. As you look at it, it seems pretty apparent, more so in this view, that I've got more of a elongated sweep of a curve right in here and something of a more abrupt curve here. Now, I haven't gone through and done anything with regard to working on nodes, checking thickness here to ensure that I'm even across the way. So I think what I'm going to do from this point really is just get it back off the string, kind of take these nodes down, ensure that I got a good even taper on both limbs here, and then take it back to the string and just kind of see what kind of bend we get with it and start with our corrections from there. All right, I have smoothed out all the nodes here, and using a caul that I usually use to heat and bend the back sides of limbs. So I would heat the belly and kind of bend it along this caul to introduce some reflex. I'm using it to kind of measure how this transition is occurring on both sides of the bow, and you can see I definitely bend more here because it's not in contact, versus here where it seems to contact all the way up the ramp and into the mid limb. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up this section of limb right here and all the way up to like here. And what we're going to do is kind of take this bend and spread it a little more across the remainder of this limb into the mid limb and try and match the shape we got going on over here. I'm a little more comfortable with a smooth transition than I am with a pretty sharp one, for fear of anything in the way of like a hinge right there, or a weak spot. So I'm just going to take a heat gun to this whole section, basically here to here, just work it really well, and then we'll clamp it down, and hopefully we can get that smoothed out a little bit. All right, guys, I've been doing some heat treatment and some bending to try and get some cooperation out of these limbs and kind of get them to match up a little bit. You'll see that this one is still a little open, but starting to come into some compliance here. But as I've been working this out, I've kind of created another issue, and you can almost see it as it comes along here and then kind of returns on the limb right here where I clamped it. If you look at it from the long length, you can see it takes this weird dip right here where it kind of bows down, like it goes out, bows down, comes back. It does some pretty funky stuff, and you can see it there. I'm going to apply some heat right in here. I've kind of marked it kind of like you would tillering. This is where I need to affect my bend backward, like need to get the bend going a little more like this instead of taking a little bit of a dip on the limb this way. And so I'm going to just heat treat this right quick with the hot gun, and we'll glue it up against. I've got that little arrow lined up so I know how to get my clamping situation going. That's what this little arrow is here, to measure up to my mold, and try and extract that little dip out of that limb, and then come back again and try and straighten this out, see if we can get ourselves to a point where we can at least try and string this thing and get a relatively decent, even bend. I've been doing a little bit of work, and this is proving to be a little on the elusive side for me up to this point. But let me make those heat corrections and I will be right back. All right, guys, I have heat treated the limb. This was the limb that was heat treated, and got it strung on a longer string. So this string actually sits about an inch or two above the back of the grip when it's strung. But you can really kind of see pretty nice even arc across the length of this limb here. When you get alongside of it, you're able to see it pretty well. This limb is still being a little obstinate, and you can also see that as you come along the side of it, where that just really straightens out, just right through this length right here. Not only, oops, that's trying to run away. Not only does it straighten out, but we take a real bit of a curve right out here at the tip, kind of like a whip end right before the recurve there. So this actually moves the heat treat that I did a little further down the limb. So the original heat treat was right in here. We're gonna try and heat all this space right here, and we're gonna bend it toward the string. So bend it this direction and see if we can't get a little even bend through the limb right there. We're taking, as a result, a lot of bend in here. We'll see how this behaves once we get this straightened out. All right, so one correction at a time here. I think I'll spend a little more time in this instance getting the heat on here so I can get a little more positive results, I guess. The original bend didn't quite come out, and so we're gonna do a little more heat treat here and hope that this time around we get a more effective outcome. So lots of heat treating and manipulating of this particular limb right here to try and get to an even tiller, and I'm braced not very high, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches. Yeah, about 4 1/4 inches there. I think I am pretty good, but there has been a lot of heat treatment, both trying to straighten out this bend and introduce some bend in here. So you can see all the marks across the belly that I've been putting on there to try and do different bending operations to get it to this state. So a lot of effort in there. In an effort to try and do anything to measure the consistency or the balance of this particular bow. I don't know how to measure different parts and pieces, but it kind of looks to me like on the grip, we start our bends at similar points, and I'm sorry I can't fit it all in the screen. This particular tip comes off the table about 3 1/4 inches. This tip over here comes off the table maybe more like 3 1/8. So I feel like we're close to even tiller. It's kind of tough for me to tell on this style of bow. But here we are. I'm just gonna exercise it a little bit, get it to a good full brace height. But when I pluck on this string, and this string is a 18 strand Dacron string, and it's sounding like a guitar string, so it is tight. This bow is projecting out at a pretty tight or heavy draw weight at brace anyway. Keeping in mind that it is a recurved and pretty highly stressed design, so it's going to have a real high early draw, or a real high early draw weight. So I don't want to allow myself to be fooled by that before we get to full draw and a good hunting weight bow here. So anyway, there we are after those heat treats. I'm going to go ahead and nurse this guy to full draw, and we will continue on from there. All right, guys, I'm going to start by taking some weight off of this thing, and you can see I've got some lines drawn on the edges here. So I'm just going to run that across the sander so that I can narrow the limbs and thereby lighten the draw weight. That's where we need to start. So I got to take that over to the sander and run it down the lines. All right, so we have trimmed down the width of this bow so that we can take some weight off of it. We are at a brace height, and when I pull on it a bit, it still feels quite stout. Let's just say stout, and the string twangs pretty tightly. However, we are getting into the range of where we want to be at this point, and so getting a good brace shape is the foundation of tillering to full draw, and that is where we're at right now. And this is really kind of setting us up for success as we move through the remainder of the construction of this bow. So guys, thanks for hanging out with me so far on this build. We're at brace height. Next week we should have this thing approaching full draw, if not pretty much done in that regard. So thanks for sticking around with me, and I will see you next week.